Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Peter Anderson. In many ways, I'm just an ordinary 33-year-old Scandinavian man, one of 4 partners in a thriving plumbing business. At the time this story begins, I am married to Sandra, 32, a woman often seen as a trophy wife. She works as a secretary for the owner of the local Volvo dealership, and together, we have an 8-year-old daughter, Ella. Life seemed stable. We owned a comfortable home in a desirable neighborhood and a summer house on a popular island in the Baltic Sea. Sandra and I first met when I was installing a central heating system at her parents' house. She still lived at home then, heartbroken after ending an engagement with a notorious local playboy nicknamed Souvenir. Souvenir earned his name from an unusual origin. His mother, a former au pair in California, returned to Sweden pregnant. Believing her handsome lover's name was Jefferson, she named her son accordingly. When locals learned the story, they mockingly called him California Souvenir, later shortened to Souvenir. His mother eventually married Anders Lind, a once overlooked classmate who gladly took in her son as his own. Though Anders had been a quiet, unremarkable man in school, he and his wife built a small computer shop into a massive chain of stores, selling it to a multinational corporation for a fortune. With newfound wealth, they moved to a countryside estate, where they raised horses and indulged their children, including Souvenir, who grew up spoiled and entitled. Despite his arrogance, charm, and affluence, Souvenir fell hard for Sandra. However, she was firm in her principles and refused intimacy before marriage. That restraint frustrated him, given his usual approach to relationships. Eventually, his nature caught up with him. He was caught in bed with another man's wife, earning him a shotgun blast of salt to his bare backside. Sandra ended the engagement immediately. When I met Sandra, she was still reeling from the betrayal. Hoping to cheer her up, I asked her out on a date, and to my surprise, she accepted. We had a wonderful evening, which led to a night at my apartment, where she confided that she had decided to abandon her previous conservative ways and live more freely, perhaps as revenge against Souvenir. That night, she let me be the first man to share her bed. However, my excitement was short-lived. Despite my attempts to see her again, she avoided me. Soon, rumors spread. Sandra had transformed into a party girl, engaging in brief flings, including some with Souvenir's friends. Meanwhile, Souvenir left town to attend university, continuing his reputation as a notorious womanizer. Yet, despite countless conquests, he could never accept that Sandra had been intimate with others while refusing him. It gnawed at him. A year after my brief encounter with Sandra, we met again at a party. This time, she claimed her wild days were behind her. We started dating seriously, and after 3 years, she became pregnant with Ella. We married soon after. Not long into our marriage, I worked on a plumbing job for one of Souvenir's old friends. The man teased me with a chilling remark. Souvenir had sworn he would one day have Sandra in every way possible and make sure the entire town knew about it. He boasted that Souvenir never failed when he truly set his sights on a married woman. I confronted Sandra, who reassured me she would never give him a chance. She promised never to be alone with him, eliminating any possibility of him acting on his so-called vow. For years, I remained vigilant, but nothing ever happened. Eventually, I heard that Souvenir had married a wealthy Englishwoman and moved to the UK. Sandra and I continued our lives in a relatively typical marriage, filled with the usual ups and downs. The memory of Souvenir faded, until one Wednesday evening when it all came crashing back. That night, Sandra and I sat in our living room, casually watching the weather forecast when she turned to me with an unusually serious expression. "Peter, I need you to listen carefully. This is important," she said. I looked at her, sensing the gravity in her tone. "All right," I replied. "Did something happen today?" She shook her head. "No, it's something from before we met." A strange tension settled between us. Then she asked, "Do you remember that I was once engaged to Jeff Lind?" I frowned. "Oh, you mean Souvenir?" I scoffed. "Yeah, I remember him. The guy who got shot in the ass for fooling around with another man's wife." What about him? Did he finally get himself into more trouble? Sandra paled. No, he's fine. He lives in England now. But recently, he was back in town for an old friend's wedding. Gabriella Erickson, you know her, met him there. They talked, and when he found out she knew me, he became very curious. He asked a lot about me. The hairs on my neck stood up. And she hesitated. She gave him my number. A cold wave of unease crashed over me. My stomach twisted as I recalled what Souvenir had sworn to do. Did he call you? I asked, my voice sharp. She nodded. Yes, we've spoken a few times. Just about old times. Old times. I repeated, my pulse quickening. Sandra, it's been nearly a decade. You two weren't even together that long. And let's not forget, he cheated on you. What exactly do you two have to reminisce about? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she lowered her gaze. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just a harmless conversation. This was something much worse. You don't understand, she said, her voice trembling. We had so many dreams about the future together. We talked about them all the time. Isn't that future behind you now? Or is there something I'm missing? I asked, my patience wearing thin. He wants to see me, she admitted hesitantly. Of course he does. You know damn well he's been bragging about how he'll have you in every way possible and even show proof to his friends. That's not exactly a conversation you can have over the phone. Is it? I shot back. Sandra paled, her face turning ashen. Don't be ridiculous. He just wants to see me as a friend. Nothing more. I scoffed. As a friend? Fine. Then invite him and his wife over for the weekend. Let's all catch up. She hesitated. No, he's not coming here. He won a bonus week at a 5-star hotel in Capri and invited me to go with him. His wife can't make it. She doesn't have the time and she's afraid of flying. She trusts him completely and has no objections. That was it. I lost it. But I have objections. Very serious objections. Have you lost your damn mind? You need therapy if you think this is acceptable. Calm down and listen to me, she pleaded. I already accepted. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You and I could never afford a week in a place like that, at least not with the expenses we have on the summer house. She wasn't wrong about that. Capri is a playground for the rich and famous. But that wasn't the point. Do you still love that bastard? I demanded. No, of course not. I love you. You should know that. Strange way of showing it, I said coldly. Jetting off to Capri with a man who's been openly boasting about what he'll do to you. That's not true. I never agreed to anything like that. He hasn't asked for anything, and I haven't promised him anything. I laughed bitterly. No promises? No expectations? And yet he's paying for everything? You really believe he's doing this out of the kindness of his heart? You're incredibly naive if you think this won't end up exactly as he planned. And I guarantee that whatever proof he provides will be all over the internet. She flinched, as if the idea had never crossed her mind. Do you really think I'm a cheating woman just because Jeff offered me a free trip? I'd be crazy to turn it down. Yes, I do think that, and so will everyone else. Once you earn that reputation, you'll never wash it away. Tears welled in her eyes. Nothing bad will happen. No one will even know I went with him. I shook my head. You really think this will stay a secret? You're about to become a public spectacle, and I refuse to be the fool standing by while you humiliate me. Panic flickered across her face. Please don't do this to us. I promise I'll make it up to you when I get back. I stared at her, disgusted. If you want to fix this, there's only one thing you can do. Call him. Cancel the trip. Do it now. She hesitated, then shook her head. I'm sorry. I can't. That was the final straw. Our marriage was over. There was no point in arguing anymore. Then all I can say is, enjoy your trip, I said coldly. I hate what you're doing, but I won't stop you. A strange sense of relief washed over me as I left the room and poured myself a large glass of whiskey. Sandra and I never spoke about her trip again. If that had been the only problem in our marriage, maybe I could have fought to change her mind. But the truth was, I was ready to let go. For years, she had forced me into a lifestyle I never wanted, like the ridiculous summer house she just had to have because all her friends had one. She didn't care that they had inherited theirs or bought them when prices were reasonable. No, she wanted one at the peak of the market, no matter the cost. We sold most of our investments and took out a massive loan just to afford it. And that wasn't enough for her. She expected me to spend every weekend and all my vacation time maintaining it while she enjoyed herself with her friends. I was nothing more than her servant, bound to her whims, constantly exhausted by her endless demands. Sandra was always brimming with new ideas, often inspired by the glossy pages of her magazines. Lately, I had begun to regret not choosing separation when I had the chance. Her latest whim was the insistence on transforming our perfectly fine lawn into a Japanese garden by the next summer. I suspected she viewed me as a pushover after winning our first argument about the summer house, believing that a little nagging would once again make me cave. But there comes a point where even the most patient man reaches his limit. That evening, little was said between us. The next morning, Sandra, in high spirits, gave me a bright smile and teasingly asked, "Do you still think you're married to a cheating woman? Have you canceled your trip?" I countered, "No, and I won't, because I have no intention of going on such a trip. You asked for my opinion, and it remains the same. Yes, I'm married to a cheating woman." Her smile vanished. With a sudden outburst, she shouted, "Who cares about your opinion?" Breakfast continued in silence. As soon as I arrived at work, I placed a call to and Broland. She sounded surprised but accepted my lunch invitation, and lived 4 houses down and was the mother of Wilma, my daughter's best friend. She had dumped her cheating husband 5 months ago. Unlike Sandra, and wasn't a trophy wife, but she had an undeniable charm that I had long admired. Over lunch, after some small talk, I told and I had a secret to share if she promised to keep it, and that I had a proposition for her. Intrigued, she agreed. I then revealed that Sandra planned to travel to Capri with her ex-boyfriend, and I intended to file for divorce. My offer? A fully paid trip for Anne and her daughter to join me and my daughter, Ella, on a vacation to Euro Disney in Paris. And was skeptical. "What's the catch?" "There is none," I assured her. "Not before the trip, not during, not after. It would just be easier for me and more enjoyable for Ella if you both came along." She studied me for a moment. "Can you share more details? And please remember, I can't and don't want to replace Sandra in any way. There's no need for that. If you say yes, we'll plan everything together." She considered it and promised to let me know soon. An hour after lunch, she called back with a few more questions before finally agreeing. That same evening, Anne arranged a babysitter, and we met at my office to finalize our travel plans. We agreed on all the details with ease. I had expected her to insist on separate rooms, but she surprised me by suggesting a family suite for the sake of our daughters. I had no objections. Over the following days, we spoke frequently to arrange flights, accommodations, and car rentals. Meanwhile, Sandra and I didn't argue further about her trip. However, I had lost all interest in intimacy with her. Not that she seemed to notice, at least for the first week. I discreetly made progress on my divorce plans, ensuring Sandra remained unaware. One afternoon, while taking her car for a wash, I discovered a stack of documents she had left in the glove compartment. They were color printouts from a Capri hotel's website and an email from her ex, detailing their flight itinerary and ferry schedule. It was as if she had left me a parting gift, confirming everything I suspected. Sandra probably would have canceled her trip had I given her an ultimatum: stay home or face divorce. But why give her that option? She had already betrayed me by accepting his invitation. She knew exactly what an infamous womanizer like him expected in return, and she had willingly agreed. My trip with Anne was different. She was single, and I had already signed my divorce papers by the time we left. Whatever happened afterward would be a separate matter entirely. When I informed Sandra that Ella and I would be in Paris while she was in Capri, she didn't question a single detail. We had both, for different reasons, lost all desire for intimacy. That is, until the night before her departure. She had been packing when I went to bed. To my surprise, she later slipped into my bed, completely naked. It had been a long time and instinct took over. Afterward, I immediately went to the bathroom to clean up. When I returned, she was sitting on her bed, sobbing. "Why did you do that to me?" she asked through her tears. "Do what? You offered, and I accepted," she continued crying. "But you accused me of being a cheating woman. Why did you do that to me, your own wife? Because, in my opinion, you are a cheating woman," she shouted. "Oh my God, we need to talk. We will after our trips." She left early in the morning for the airport. Once I was certain they had boarded the boat to Capri, I made my move. I dialed Souvenir's wife and had a serious conversation. Her fury ignited instantly. She was livid beyond words. "That bastard Jefferson has gone too far this time," she fumed. Finding her hadn't been difficult. One phone call to Sandra's friend Gabriella had given me all I needed. With a name like Souvenir, tracking him down in England was almost too easy. People with uncommon names leave a trail, and I had followed his right to his doorstep. Then I wrote to Sandra. "Dear Sandra, your old and new lover, Souvenir, is not just a liar, he's a terrible one. His wife, Abby, told me she met him when she was working as an air hostess. Ironically, she too once enjoyed a lovely vacation at Capri, just like you. Perhaps you should have spoken to her before swallowing every lie he fed you. She's furious and has promised to join you in Capri as soon as possible, for a serious discussion with both you and your dear lover. Enclosed, you will find copies of the divorce papers filed with the court today. From this moment on, you are free to do whatever you please, without any regard for me. Of course, you never truly cared for me anyway. If you had, you wouldn't be sitting in Capri, reading this letter. Peter, your soon-to-be ex-husband." I contacted the hotel reception, ensuring they would deliver my fax to Sandra upon her check-in. Moments after she arrived, my phone erupted with calls. Both my home phone and cell ringing incessantly. I ignored them. Instead, I skimmed through her desperate text messages. An hour later, she sent one that read, "I'm coming home tomorrow. We need to clear up this misunderstanding." I replied coldly, "There's no misunderstanding. You don't share a hotel room with Souvenir by accident. You made a choice, now live with the consequences." She continued to text, pleading, but I had already moved on. That evening, Abby called me from Naples, fuming. She had confronted her husband, demanding he throw Sandra out of their hotel room immediately. Less than 15 minutes later, he called her back, confirming Sandra was gone. Sandra had been there for less than an hour before being discarded like trash. Abby doubted there had been any romance between them after her furious phone calls. Sandra had spent more time trying to reach me than enjoying her so-called romantic getaway. The next morning, Abby set off for Capri. As for me, I was already en route to a much-needed escape. I flew to France with Anne and the girls, embracing the fresh start ahead. At Orly, we picked up our rental car, a Renault Megane, and navigated effortlessly to our hotel. Traveling with Anne and the kids felt surprisingly natural, as though we had always been a family. The only minor hiccup? The French beds, grand lit as they call them, slightly larger than singles. Anne and I exchanged an amused glance before bursting into laughter. That problem was easily solved. Meanwhile, Sandra continued to flood my phone with messages. She swore she hadn't cheated, claimed she had spent the night alone in a separate hotel. I shut her down immediately. "You cheated the moment you accepted his invitation to Capri. You didn't leave him, he threw you out the moment his wife turned up. Save your excuses," and wisely stayed out of it. Instead, we spent 2 wonderful days at Euro Disney, filled with laughter and adventure. On the 3rd day, we explored Paris, shopping, visiting the Eiffel Tower, marveling at Versailles, and cruising down the Seine. The joy was genuine, untainted by the past. That final night at the hotel, after the girls had fallen asleep, Anne surprised me. "I have a gift for you," she whispered, placing a finger on my lips to silence me. Then, she slid beneath the comforter, removing my boxers with deliberate tenderness. Her lips met my skin, her touch filled with devotion. When she finally whispered, "Peter, I love you," my response was instant. I love you, Anne. Our intimacy was slow, quiet, careful not to wake the sleeping girls, but deeply meaningful. We both knew this was the beginning of something real. Afterward, as we lay in each other's arms, and asked, "Will you still love me when we return home?" I kissed her softly and promised, "Real love isn't bound by location." She responded with searing kisses, and though we didn't make love again that night, the passion between us was undeniable, and wanted to discuss the future. "What are your plans?" she asked, tracing her fingers along my arm. "There's no chance I'll cancel my divorce," I told her firmly. "The first thing I need to do is find a place to live." Without hesitation, she smiled. "You could be my lodger with a loving hostess." I stared at her, half in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Yes," she said simply. "If you meant what you said about loving me, then Ella and you are welcome in my home." I didn't hesitate. "I love you, Anne, and I accept." We both knew moving in together after only a few days was impulsive, maybe even reckless. But sometimes risks had to be taken. "You have to dare to win," she murmured before we fell asleep. Back home, Sandra unraveled when she realized what was happening. She cried hysterically, begging me to stay, but I remained unmoved. "You burned your bridges when you chose Capri over our marriage," I told her flatly. There was no room for discussion. My first night at Anne's house was unforgettable, tender, intimate, and filled with the promise of a new beginning. Her ex-husband must have been a fool to cheat on such a remarkable woman. Of course, neither of us was perfect, but I was certain we could face any challenges together. That certainty was tested sooner than expected. Just a month into living together, someone attempted to drive a wedge between us. One afternoon at work, I received an anonymous letter with no return address. Inside was a printed photograph, grainy and poorly rendered by a low-quality inkjet printer. Accompanying it was a short, venomous note. "It's common knowledge among Anne Broland's friends that she had an intimate relationship with Jeff Lind. You might want to ask her about what really happened at the conference 2 weeks ago." The photo showed Anne standing on a bar counter, her skirt lifted, with her underwear pooled around her ankles. My first instinct was to react with anger, to believe the worst. But something felt off. After taking a moment to calm myself, I examined the image closely. The details didn't add up. For one, the watch she wore in the picture wasn't the one she had been using since I met her. Her hairstyle was also slightly different, shorter than it should have been. The inconsistencies nagged at me, keeping my emotions in check. That evening, I handed Anne the letter and the photo. Her reaction was not what I expected. Instead of looking guilty or defensive, she burst into laughter. "Oh, this?" she said, flipping through an old photo album. "Here, take a look." She showed me a series of pictures from a company Christmas party years ago. In them, several women, including Anne, were lined up on a dance floor, all participating in a playful contest. Walking across the floor with borrowed panties at their ankles. A harmless, silly game. The timestamp on the images confirmed the event. As for Jeff Lind, she admitted that there had been a drunken night during their school days when she suspected he had taken advantage of her, but he had always denied it. However, she had no involvement with him at the recent conference. With the truth exposed, our concern shifted to the real question: who would go to such lengths to fabricate a scandal? Whoever it was had access to her old photos and the skill to manipulate them using Photoshop. The motive was clear. Someone wanted to sabotage our relationship. Determined to put an end to it, and openly discussed the fake photo at work, offering a reward to anyone who could identify the culprit. Meanwhile, a biker friend of mine made it known that he would have a serious talk with whoever was responsible if they were found. The threats must have worked. We never received another letter. Instead of breaking us, the experience only made us stronger. Our love deepened, and we became more aware of the envy surrounding us. Meanwhile, Sandra and I finalized our separation. We sold our summer house, and she used her share, along with financial help from her parents, to buy out my portion of our home. We arranged for shared custody of Ella, though she often spent extra time with us, enjoying her bond with Anne's daughter, and embraced her like family, saying, "Our girls are sisters now." As for Abby, we stayed in touch through occasional emails. She told me that 2 months after their Capri trip, she finally left Souvenir for good. His downfall? Carelessness. During a visit to her parents' house, he forgot his phone. Her father, curious and suspicious, snooped through it and discovered explicit messages exchanged with yet another mistress. That was the last straw for Abby. She had given him one final chance after Capri, and he had thrown it away. Sandra struggled in the weeks after our divorce, but she eventually bounced back. Now, she thrives as a stunning single woman, though her romantic life has been turbulent. She had a short-lived relationship with an awkward man that ended within a month. More recently, she has been seeing someone new. According to Ella, this one is far better than the first. His only flaw? He's fresh out of a divorce, and his ex-wife left him with barely a penny to his name. Life has moved on for all of us, but in very different directions. While Sandra and Souvenir paid the price for their betrayals, Anne and I found something rare, genuine love. And this time, I wasn't letting it go. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.